far, over $2 million has been raised for Daniel Penny's defense. Millions to save a penny. Sounds like a typical Democrat social program. But it is good news. Still, is it a match for the mob? The mob that disrupted subway service and started brawls over the death of a violent, mentally ill homeless man. See, they thrive off violent extortion, lurking and waiting to pounce like a lunatic on the F train, and always adored by the media. And even though this dead guy was a menace, better at impersonating Michael Myers than Michael Jackson, they're going to reshape that narrative so he's a martyr and the Marine a bad guy, and race will play the starring role. Even though it was a bona fide rainbow coalition teaming up to protect innocent passengers from a raging lunatic. But to morons and race baiters, that can only mean one thing: white supremacy. Which means if the case doesn't go their way, prepare for the apocalypse on your streets. That's the extortion. Neely was a violent mess with serious mental issues. I see him every day, usually outside CNN headquarters. But if you ask the media, he was a talented entertainer, which is like saying John Wayne Gacy was a clown. He was. Now, mental illness can make you a victim, but also a victimizer. And in Neely's case, there's a good chance when he punched a few senior citizens, he did it because he felt like it. Oh, there was help out there for him for sure, billions in social programs. But what happened there? It's a scam called rent-seeking, the practice of manipulating public policy to increase profits. If homelessness actually gets better, the profits shrink. So you got to keep that problem alive. It's really how the Democratic Party exists. Keep people living at subsistence level, and they will have to rely on us forever. After 42 priors, Neely should have been locked up, but New York has a 180 strikes, and you're still not outlaw. So he roamed loose. And because the left sees dollar signs and sorrow, they preferred to unload these maniacs on the rolling asylum called the subway, a mode of transport these would never be caught dead on, pun intended. Neely was on NYC's list of the top 50 people in dire need of help. Yeah, the government makes lists of people they aren't helping. Isn't that the phone book? But the homeless service industry is indeed an industry. De Blasio threw $1 billion to Thrive NYC with his wife as the boss. Yep, he hired the most qualified person he was married to. And surprise, it got worse. And why? Because the money flows up and not down. Nothing was thriving but salaries. They threw another $240 million next fiscal year to the Department of Homeless Services, and of course, things got worse. So you had more homeless criminals roaming transit. No one wants to mess with them, but they will mess with you, surely. That's where Penny and others step in. New Yorkers are supposed to look out for each other, not look away. But do that, and you'll be looking for a lawyer. Bragg charged him, and City Hall must have known. So Bragg and the mayor bent over for a few performance protesters. And they were indeed performers. The subway event had to be staged, because there's no way those kids jump onto a live subway track and stay there without knowing the train wouldn't turn them into ground chuck. I mean, they're zombies, but they're not literal zombies. Maybe I'm wrong. The protesters also needed police to be involved because no cops were present when Neely died, so they needed conflict on the streets between protesters and cops, a narrative the media always embraces. And so the jury will hear that story. AOC and others will push the lynching narrative as received wisdom. She wants to pull the lever for the electric chair like it's a beer tap. But they run into a problem. Real people who take the subway, and anybody else who just wants to get through their day with a minimum of hassle. We have to fight this. We have to support Daniel Penny. Not against Jordan Neely, but against the Alvin Braggs and the AOCs of the world. And also the old, wretched dividers who tear us apart by telling us that, after all, racism has long torn us apart.
Racism has long torn us apart. The most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy. And I'm not saying this because I'm at a black HBCU. I say it wherever I go.
No, you said it because you were there, you bozo. So how does that help blacks or whites? It's not meant to. See, dividing people just makes them easier to conquer, which helps the rent-seeking crooks who make money off maintaining racial strife. Joe's telling black grads they're entering a world faced with invisible white devils. And that's a lie. You call white people the devil, and you're half right. But it's the half blacks keep voting for. Even when Lucifer himself comes to your graduation and lies to your face. Let's welcome tonight's guest. She puts the war in wardrobe. Former State Department spokeswoman and founder of Polaris National Security, Morgan Ortega. He takes his prune juice shaken, not stirred. Former CIA operative Mike Baker. She's got more fake hair than a dollhouse daycare. Fox News contributor Kat Tiff. His biceps day takes 2 weeks. My massive sidekick and the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Tyrus. You know, Mike, it is true. You're like the James Bond for the villages.
I'm very popular at the villages.
You really are. I'm sure you walk down there, your clothes are clawed off.
Sometimes I'll hang outside of Costco signing autographs.
Yeah.
No, I've got a certain demographic.
All right, so what's your solution here besides moving to Idaho, where you live? You know how the media is framing this. Yeah. Are we just heading for another huge riot in like 7 months?
Yeah, just let it heat up a little bit more out there on the streets. It's such a sad, tragic situation, right? I mean, this is, again, one of those no-win. Nobody wins here at all. Jordan Neely shouldn't have died. Daniel Penny didn't mean to kill him. Mm-hmm. Reasonable people can agree to those things, right? But the problem is that the city, New York City, does almost nothing for the mental health issues of a vast number of people out on the streets, much less the homeless, as you pointed out. So, you know, I can't really speak to that. What I can speak to is the fact that President Biden has just lost the plot, right? I like to you should always say good things about people. You should always give them credit where they're due. But there's something about President Biden and his inability to push back against the really hard base that he's pandering to. For him to go to a historically black college and say, I'm not pandering, is absurd. Of course he's pandering. Mm-hmm. And he does it constantly, and it's nothing but divisive. And he then wants to talk about how he's a unifier. So I'm really done with his position. The problem is he appears to be heading towards 2024, and we're going to be talking about him for a while yet.
Yeah. What do you think, Morgan? What's worse? Him basically, again, saying white supremacy is the #1 domestic threat, which isn't true, or how the media is shaping this case into something that will ultimately explode on the streets.
They're both bad. I do think that the media is not winning on this one on trying to turn it into a race controversy, because enough people sort of believe what Mike just said, that it was a terrible tragedy. And that's why this Marine has raised over $2 million now online to come to his defense. And so I don't know that the media can get away with it. Like, it's sort of like rinse and repeat the news cycles that they do, and I think it's hard to perpetrate that. Listen, I, like Mike, have spent my career worrying about threats to the homeland and things that could, that be dangerous to all of us, things that could attack us. And I spent my whole career doing that, and I'm old enough to remember the Chinese spy balloon, right? I'm old enough to remember the fall of Kabul, or the record number of terrorists that are apprehended at our border that are on the terrorist watch list. These are the things that I worry about every day as a national security professional. And so the president is just flat out lying and pandering to an audience and dividing us.
Mm-hmm. Kat, what have you to say about his commencement address? Or you may speak about the subway, if you wish.
I do kind of want to talk about the subway, because I think that something people aren't talking enough about is the fact that there were people on the subway calling 911 before this confrontation even happened. And people who are watching who have not spent time on the New York subway, the bar is so high for what would actually make you call 911.
Right, that's a great point.
Like, people who've not been here might not realize what you can expect to see on a normal day on the subway, and be like, well, that again. There's another penis. Like,
I wouldn't call the cops if a guy was exposing himself or pooping. I would just go, nah, I got to live with that.
I saw a woman once take her pants off, take and then go back on and just lay down. And I was like, well, I saw a guy one time bandaging a bloody, like gushing bloody toe with a wad of $20 bills. I'm like, that's definitely a guy who does crimes.
No, that was Larry Kudlow.
Then I just got up, you just get up and you go about your day, and it's not good. I'm not saying it's a good thing, and it has gotten a lot worse than it was. But the things that you accept without calling 911, because it's just unfortunately normal, disgusting life on the subway, there's something to be said for the fact that this was different, because that is a different action for New Yorkers to be taking.
Right, they were
even
calling.
before that this happened.
Nobody ever calls.
No.
No one does. Tyrus, thoughts?
I have two thoughts on this one. First of all, I loved your monologue, and thank you for having the balls to say it, number one. But you always, it's just you really look for the best in some of the worst people. Bragg and them weren't bullied into this. They saw the opportunity.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because they got an opportunity. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if the Marine wasn't white. Let's just say it, period. And once they saw that it was a white man who had the rear naked choke on a black man, that's when the mob said, gotcha. And they came out. They're not saying anything. Are the two that were holding hands and holding them on the ground, are those co-conspirators? Are they going to be arrested? Or everyone else that was in the subway, in the lunchbox?
Yeah.
That's why I don't ride a subway. I don't fit. You know what I'm saying? I don't. So all the people in that hot lunchbox that were terrified and afraid, are they all going to be arrested too? Because they didn't do anything? Again, what they were hoping for and what they want is they want another George Floyd moment. The problem was he's just ordinary white citizen who used to be a Marine. If he was a police officer, they would really get their fundraising going. Yeah. And that's what they're really upset about. But the timing on this, again, this happens. It's national news now. Everyone wants to talk about it. We're not talking about Hunter anymore.
Yeah.
We're not talking about inflation, debt ceiling anymore. We're not talking about China anymore. We're talking about this. And then lo and behold, the president's speech is about what? What is the most dangerous thing in this country? Apparently, white men.
Yes.
So you got the president saying this, and this poor bastard who was just finally did something. You know how many videos we've seen on the subway where a woman's crying for help? The worst one I saw was a man grabbed her hair, made her sit with him, and she's screaming for help.
No one.
No, whispering.
Yeah.
Please help me. Please help me. No one did anything. The brother that stood over and beat the Asian woman to damn near death in the corner. No one did anything. Finally, a group of men are back, and came and did something. Is it unfortunate he lost his life? Yes, but he took that risk when he decided to attack, threaten, and do those type of things. I just think I love the speeches when everyone comes out. Where were the family when this poor man was walking the subways to be arrested 40 times? Where were they?
All right.
I will say, I mean, it's really is not talked about, as Kat said, in terms of if you just took that subway car, that one car, where Daniel Penny was, and the idea that he was doing it for racist motives. You think he actually stood around and looked and said, okay, I'm going to go protect just the white people in this car.
Or also, I'm going to get into this car.
Yeah.
Because I plan on killing this person. The odds of that happening are very low, and I'm a scientist. Okay, we got to move on. Up next, Kia and Hyundai need legal advisors because their cars lack immobilizers. Wow, that's a tease.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.